What's up guys, Mike Builds. In today's video we're going to be actually testing the diesel trike that we built in a previous video. We did a couple of videos with this 10-horse diesel engine and I showed you guys in part 1 how we started to build this trike. This is going to be the part 2 to that video, so you're going to see me fully finish this thing and build it. And the way this video is going to be put together is I'm going to show you guys this thing running and driving right now at the beginning of the video, and then if you want to keep watching to see how I built this whole thing and got it running, that the rest of the video is going to be the build series on it. So there's already a part 1. Make sure you guys go check that out. This is going to be the part 2 and us actually test driving this. So I'm going to put all the test drive footage at the beginning. That way, if that's all you want to see, you can just go ahead and watch that. So let me know what you guys think and enjoy the video. A golf cart. They're 8-inch 8x10s, I think.
Get deep, boy. I'll start upside down and then rotate it out. What were you pointing at? A random fastener?
Okay. Alright, now we're going to try to start it. Parking brake on. Oh my god. This thing's going to take forever to start. It's so cold. Alright. Can somebody else pull it? I'm going to have to hold the throttle.
Okay, I'm holding the camera.
Oh yeah. No, here. So, yeah, compression stroke. Alright, now pull it with both hands.
Oh.
Turn.
There you go.
Oh, it fired.
Oh, shit, man.
Flyby?
It's miserable.
You look cold.
Yeah.
What the?
So cold. Let off the throttle and you'll die.
Freezing. I'm about to get a YouTube short.
Okay, put it on your channel.
I will.
Look at the cold. Don't let it die. I gotta go record myself. Hey guys, Mike Builds. Welcome back to this channel. Welcome back to another video. In the last video, I showed you guys how I built this diesel power plant swing arm thing, and in today's video, we're actually going to complete this project and get this thing running. So I have a few options of what I'm going to mount this on, and keep in mind, whatever I build out of it now is not going to be how this permanently ends up. The plan, like I said before, is to put this on many different things, but to start off the build, we're going to build something kind of easy just to prove that this all works. The first frame I have is this MX500 frame, a razor frame. This would be pretty easy to use. I don't know how heavy duty this frame is, but this is an option. I do have this just kind of kicking around, and I don't think it would be too much effort to adapt this to be connected to this. And another option I have is this bicycle. So not really sure which one I'm going to use, but it'd be kind of funny to have a bicycle that's powered by a diesel engine, just to build some crazy contraptions and try this thing out. The main purpose is to just kind of field test this thing, and like I said, we're just going to build a bunch of stuff with it. So I think to start, like I said, we're going to use either the MX500 or this bicycle. I'm not really sure yet. I'm going to kind of start mocking this up, get a feel for which one I like more, and kind of go from there. I also have this old Z50 frame with a GY 650cc engine on it. I built this a long time ago. I never really finished it, but I want to use the Z50 frame for something else. So I think I'm going to take this GY6 engine off, and I'm going to probably end up putting the GY6 engine on whatever frame I don't end up using. So if I don't use the bicycle, the GY6 engine will go on that, or the MX500, not really sure. I'm gonna kind of do some brainstorming and see what I can't figure out and get this project rolling. Okay, I went ahead and fitted the golf cart front tires off the golf cart on here. I plan on running golf cart wheels. Not this particular set though. I want to get a nice set of alloy wheels, off-road tires. And I just want to kind of get an idea how this thing's gonna look, and very meaty. So that's how it looks. We may have to run a wheel spacer because on this side it almost touches the frame. On this side it kind of does a little bit, but I can space that. I don't think I'll have a problem doing that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get the rear end on the ground and start mocking up the front to fit a steering system and a seat and all that, so we can get something built. All right, I have it kind of mocked up where I think it needs to sit. This is probably gonna have to be trimmed. I'm probably gonna have to change the rear shock. I think that's gonna be too squishy, but we're not gonna worry about that right now. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and tack the swing arm to the rear part of the swing arm, just to kind of get an idea of the overall dimensions and size. I'm gonna sit on it, make sure it's comfortable. And yeah, this is kind of what it's gonna look like. It's gonna look freaking crazy. All right guys, here it is, packed together. All we had to do is add some structure to it. So I think we're gonna run this setup. What do you guys think? Diesel trike? We'll go ahead and order some more parts. All right guys, so basically this is the final, this is probably gonna be the rough draft of how it's actually gonna look. As you can see, it is fully attached. I'm gonna see how I look on it. That's how we're looking so far. The next step is going to be full disassembly. I need to actually brace and weld all that. Now that I've decided I am going to go with this design, I'm pretty set on it now. Wasn't sure before, but we're going to roll with it. And like I said, this is going to be changed around anyway, so I'm not afraid to just run with it. And then if I change my mind later, we just change it up. But anyways, let me show you guys some goodies we got. All right, so I got a thumb throttle, so we're going to go with one of those, and hopefully the throttle cable's long enough. We got some of these axle things, and these are going to go like on there. I forget what these are called. Those are going to help center things on the axle and keep everything from shifting. I bought a Chinese pit bike front brake kit to put some hydraulic brakes on it, as well as a random 1-inch live axle hub. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up mating this rotor to this hub. That way we have hydraulic brakes, and then hopefully the brake line's long enough to reach the handlebars on the bike. So we will have a full hydraulic brake system. The bike already has brakes, but they're really chintzy, tiny little crappy disc brakes. So we're definitely gonna want some stopping power on this thing. And then last but not least, this is the most exciting part. So we're not gonna be running these golf cart wheels because these belong to that golf cart. So let me show you guys what I got instead. Check these bad boys out, you guys. Oh my gosh. So these are 8-inch wheels. I was thinking about maybe going with 10-inch, but I don't wanna have to run more than like an 18-inch tall tire. And all the 10-inch wheels, all the off-road tires are like 20 inches and above. So with these, I'm gonna be able to mount an 18-inch tire, which is the same size as those. And I think that's big enough just for this project. Obviously later down the road we can swap it out, put bigger tires if we want, but this is what we're going to be running. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, it's going to look so awesome. And the tires will be here in a few days, so once the tires get here, I'll show y'all what those look like. But I'm super excited to run these wheels. I think they're about $60 each, so not terrible. And worst case scenario, if I don't like them on this, I can always put them on the golf cart, so no harm, no foul if I don't use them. But that's it. So we got a lot of the parts we need to get this thing running. I think with all that stuff, as long as we finish all the fab work and paint, we can actually start riding this thing. So that is the goal. Oh yeah, look at these bad mamma jammas. So we have here, I hope these don't ride really terribly on the street, but they probably will. If I don't end up liking them, not really worried about it, I'll put them on the golf cart. But anyways, we have some V-groove, tractor style, big lug tires. So that's what we're gonna be running on this thing with those wheels. So now I need to get the wheels mounted. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get these mounted. I think if I just soak them up and use some tire tools. I'm gonna try to do it from the back. That way I don't scratch the lip up here. Or I have to scratch the back up because you won't be able to see it. So I think I have all the parts here. We can kind of start finally getting this thing built. The first thing I need to do is strip the whole thing down and reinforce the chassis. I think actually before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and get the brake kit made. And yeah, let's get to it, you guys. All right, in order to make our brake setup, I have this go-kart, like a sprocket hub, 1-inch This is a Chinese pit bike front brake kit I bought on Amazon. So in here is the master and all that stuff, the caliper, the lines and everything, brake pads. And it just so happened to line up perfectly with the bolt holes, so I don't actually have to do anything crazy. The bolt holes are a little bit offset, so right there you can kind of see they're a little bit offset, but when you put the smaller diameter bolt in the bigger diameter holes that are offset, I think it's gonna make everything line up perfect. But yeah, I'm gonna get these all tight. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the axle shaft off, get those bearings off we're not going to use. I still have to install the chain master link. Once we get the rotor on there, then we're gonna start mocking up the caliper. We're gonna have to build a caliper bracket to get that all that held on there. And then once that's on there, then the brakes are good and this thing will pretty much be done. Then we got to strip it down. All right, I got our brake disc on the axle and I went ahead and put these collars on the end of the bearings too, just to give the axle some more support from sliding in the bearings themselves. So those guys will help with that. Here's the caliper master, and like I said, this was like 35 bucks. So if I can end up making this work, it'll be a really good budget hydraulic disc brake. And I think this will have plenty of stopping power for this thing, but we will see. It also came with a spare set of brake pads and some random hardware and stuff. I think the only problem with running this front brake kit is this brake line is going to be a little too short, because as you can see, it's not even close to the handlebars. So I'd either have to mount it as some sort of foot brake or put a linkage, or just buy a longer cable or a longer brake hose. So I'm probably going to try to do that, but just for now we're still going to make the brackets to hold the caliper just to get the brakes working. Puck right here, let me go ahead and pop that off. And there it is with the caliper put on. It fits perfect. So all we have to do is I'm going to try to have the caliper kind of straight up like this. We are going to have to twist the hose around, but that's not going to be a problem. But all we have to do is attach some bolts here and here, and we just have to have something come out like a little piece of square tubing to attach to there. So that should be too easy. I think it only has to have one little arm and it'll be strong enough, but I can also brace it to this if I need to. So I'm gonna go ahead and start mocking up and designing that, and then we will have brakes. And I'm really excited to have hydraulic brakes, because normally when I build stuff I don't put brakes on them, and when I do put brakes they're not very good. So this will be a good cheap solution. Maybe some of you guys can use this on your builds at home if it works out really well. I'm gonna go ahead and find some material and start making this little bracket. Check it out, got the wheels and tires all mounted up. These things look absolutely killer in my opinion. These are 8 by 9.5 by 18-inch tall tires. I still need to get the nuts for the axles. I don't have that yet. For some reason the axle didn't come with any. And I did start working on the brake caliper mount, and this is kind of what I came up with, just literally a piece of flat bar with 2 holes drilled and a little bit of hardware. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack it right here, fine tune how the caliper sits to make sure it makes full contact with the rotor. And once all that's good, I'm gonna fully weld this in, and then I'm also gonna put some supports to help gusset it, because all the braking power is gonna have to be supported by this bar. This is 1/4 inch thick flat bar, so it should be plenty strong. And then once that's fully mounted, we can kind of get the rotor sitting where we want. Luckily, all this is going to be adjustable once we have it mounted. Shouldn't be an issue adjusting everything. And once that's done, we just got to put keyways and everything. So I got to finalize the sprocket. I have to tighten it up some more and get it kind of evened out, because for some reason this sprocket does not sit very well on the sprocket hub. And in the future, I might have to change that, but we're just going to roll with it for now because I already have it. All right, that's tacked. So now I'm going to bend this to give it some clearance right here. That way these little points aren't hitting the top of this. So once I kind of get that in place, then I can fully weld this thing on the bottom, and then we're going to gusset it a little bit more, probably put a bar across here, and the brakes should be nice and solid. Bend it up a little bit, see, now it clears. I'm going to put a tack. Oh yeah, that's nice. All right guys, I made the executive decision to shorten the width up a little bit because the tires are rubbing the frame. So I've already done this side, and we're going to take about this much material off. So all I did was cut there, cut there. I'm going to measure this distance here on both the front and the back, as well as on that side. That way it's all even. And then another thing I'm going to do, since I'm doing all this, is I think I'm going to change my bearings from this style of pillow ball bearing to this one, because with these you'll get more clearance. And also I'm having a lot of issues getting these to align perfect because my tabs did kind of warp when I welded. The bearing can move a little bit, but I do feel like it's slightly binding up, and I don't even want to worry about it. So I think what's going to happen is once we get our tubes kind of finalized where I want them and they're fully welded, we're going to take this, we have to take this back apart anyways to do final welding, but regardless, once I have it apart, I'm going to flip it upside down and we're going to cut these tabs off and drill the holes for these, get these all mounted up. We're going to have to reposition the brake rotor. The chain and sprocket should be good, and that's it. So hopefully when we're done, we'll have a different set of bearings. It'll be a little bit more narrower. So that's what I'm going to be working on. I basically had to recut this off because it wasn't actually straight. It was curved up to the left a little bit, So I went ahead and cut this off, and I went ahead and re-welded it on with some new material to make it straight. I still have to cut the axle hangers off, but I just kind of wanted to explain what I'm doing on this part, and now I'm just going to fully weld this, and this should all be done. I think it'll be plenty strong with just these tubes. I might add a little bit more gusseting just to make it extra strong, but I think that's good just for now. I still need to cut off these little ears on the frame and do the bearing carriers next. Also, the bottom of these tubes got to get welded. So I'm trying to finish all the welding. That way when I put it in the garage, I can shut the garage. Alrighty guys, we're back in the garage. I got all the welding done on the front just for now. I do need to still do some more welding. As y'all can see, I got those tabs grinded off of these bearings. So we went ahead and did the 2-bolt pillow block style bearings. And right now I measured from here to here on both sides. And I also marked where the axle was with the old bearings. That way I don't have to change a whole lot of stuff when it comes to the chain length. And I know the engine and all that's still gonna fit. I might have to modify the brake caliper bracket just a little bit, but that's not a problem because it's only this one little piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the holes drilled. I went ahead and put some flat stock here in order to keep the bearing from moving on each side, so I know the axle is perfectly square. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those holes drilled, get some bolts put in there, and then the axle will be completely done, and then I can flip this thing back over, cut the ends off, get all those cleaned up, and then I can put the engine and everything back together to try to start getting ready for a test run, because I'm gonna test run this before we do all the paint and final prep, just to make sure I'm happy with the configuration of this. I'll definitely get video of all that. So once I make some more progress, I'll bring you guys back in and kind of update y'all on what's going on. But yeah, this is where we're at with it so far. I'm also gonna order another set of these bearings just to have a spare set on me in case I take this somewhere far or I go like to an off-road park and I have issues with the bearings. I've heard a lot of people use these and have really good luck, and these are just cheap Amazon. Actually, I think I bought these at Northern Tool, but these are anywhere between $10 to $20 a piece, so super cheap, and apparently they're rated at like 15 to 2,000 pounds of working load. I believe the static working load is 2,500 pounds and the dynamic working load is 1,500 pounds, so you know, when you divide that over two, that's probably plenty of support. So anyways, I'm gonna get back to it, you guys. Also, I think I got the swing arm a lot more square. Like I said earlier, it was kind of twisted a little bit to one way, but now it's a lot more square, and it's also a little bit more beefy. I'm probably gonna end up adding more material because right now I just have these 11 gauge pieces of 1-inch square tubing, and it's very solidly welded, way too squishy. We got our holes drilled, get our axle put on. Perfect. My plan also is to weld a tab on the front of the bearings to help locate them in case I have to remove the axle, because the bearings are slotted slightly. So the tabs up front will help keep the bearings perfectly square and keep the axle straight. I went ahead and added this shock because the stock shock on the MX500 frame is very dinky. So we have this random shock that I have no idea where I got it from, but it's been laying on my shelf for a few years. So I went ahead and welded some 1/4-inch brackets on there to hold it. So I already have them kind of tacked. I got a few welds done, but I'm gonna pull the shock off to do all the rest of the welding. And then this thing will actually have some pretty good rear suspension. The front suspension is gonna be not very well just because it's stock MX500 forks. If I can cheaply upgrade the forks, I will, but if not, we're just gonna run it for now. And yeah, just trying to keep the project within a good budget, you know what I mean? But so far so good. We're really kind of getting this thing buttoned up. I did go ahead and order the throttle cable. That'll be here in a couple days. I still need to figure out the axle nuts because for some reason every website sells them for like $10 a piece. So I need to figure out something with that. All right guys, here's how we're sitting. Got our new shock. Still got to pull the old one off. I'm going to show you guys how good it works. Yeah, so I'm going to have to probably trim this because it is hitting the exhaust, but as far as how stiff the frame is, it feels like it's going to be really stiff as far as like the frame wanting to twist. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this bar trimmed. Probably going to put a piece of material right here to brace that up. All right, so I think I showed you guys before I was having issues with the throttle hitting this jack shaft bearing support. So I did go ahead and modify the throttle plate just a little bit in order to clear this. That way I can fully mount this on. I do not want any risk of the throttle getting stuck because that would be very scary on this thing. And I'm probably gonna end up making a remote way to pull the decompression lever with maybe one of the brake levers off the MX500 frame. That way we can kill the engine if it does run away. I don't think it will, but being that it's a diesel, the only way to keep this thing from running is either take away the compression or take away the fuel. There is no spark or anything. And if you're interested, this is the actual throttle right here. And there's a linkage inside the engine that controls the high pressure fuel pump, and it controls the volume of fuel going into the combustion chamber, and that's actually how this thing regulates its horsepower. And this is more or less like a governor assembly, I guess you could say. And then right there is the actual RPM set screw. So if I did want to turn this thing up RPM wise, I could turn this screw out, but I'm not going to because you don't really need to rev the heck out of a diesel. And I believe stock, this will go 3,600 RPM. So that should be fast enough for what we're doing with it. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys this. I'm gonna get all this slap back together and make sure it all moves freely and doesn't get snagged up. And that's it. I want a nice smooth throttle. I don't want this thing to hang up or get stuck. Goes like that. Get this all put together and make sure it moves. I did go ahead and get a new throttle cable in the mail, but it's not really a new cable. It's just another cable because the cable that came with the thumb throttle, by the way, this thing feels pretty smooth, it's way too short. So my goal or my plan is to connect this throttle cable to that one and then run it into the engine and then connect them in a way to where they're not going to get stuck. So I have to figure that out. I also got some lug nuts in the mail because I'm running this style lug nut right now that came with the hubs. Oh, I didn't even think to make sure these are the right threads. Let's see right now. Oh, thank goodness. So yeah, so anyways, these are way too short. And you see how far they sit in the wheel. But these new black ones, looks like I'm gonna need a thin socket, but that shouldn't be an issue. So now we have some nice looking lug nuts. Also, another thing I need to figure out is I cannot seem to find a nut for this axle, and if I buy the nut, it's like $10, and I really don't want to spend $10 on 2 nuts. It's like $10 a piece. So I think I'm going to cut this off, and I'm just going to weld a bolt on the end in order to hold the hub on the axle. In theory, this should not have a lot of stress pushing it this way. I'm going to do this just for now. I do have a spare axle, so if this doesn't work, it is what it is, and I will just get the correct nuts. But just for now, because I don't want to spend any more money, I'm going to try to just weld a bolt on the end and weld it in there nice and hot and just see if that'll help hold the wheel on. That way all I gotta do is hook the throttle up, finish the brakes. I'm still waiting on the brake hydraulic hose to come in. I haven't got that yet. And then we can go for a test drive. That's kind of my whole goal here, just to work out all the bugs and see how this thing drives, if it even drives at all with that Razor front end. It'll be very interesting. I'm also thinking about building like a little shelf right here in order to support the bottom of the jack shaft on the torque converter. Because as the engine puts torque to this chain, it's gonna wanna pull this down and to alleviate some of the stresses on this plate because it's not extremely heavy duty and I don't want it pulling on the little bolts that attach to the motor. I think I'm just gonna put a little shelf and support here. I did it on the last build I did when I built one of these a ton. So I think it'll just consist of some tubing like that. I'll just tack it on there and it'll literally just be a shelf that this can sit on. Nothing crazy, and it'll just help, I think, that much more. All right, there we have it. So all I gotta do is put the washer, and then this is also a lock nut, so that'll be nice. So now we can hopefully securely put our hubs and wheels on. Let me know in the comments if you guys think it's gonna break or not. I think it'll hold up just fine. I don't plan on really beating the crap out of this thing. So yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and get the wheels and tires fully bolted on. Alright guys, so we got the frame all painted up and it came out really good. I really dig the red. So I think now I'm going to go ahead and get this whole thing assembled. I'm not going to record the whole thing because you guys have kind of already seen that. And the next time y'all see this, it should be ready to ride. I'm going to do a big update. We should have everything done. I'm still waiting on a few parts, but by the time I make the next clip, this thing should be 100% ready to go. Alright guys, I am super excited to announce that this thing is pretty much complete. There is still some small stuff I'd like to clean and tidy up, and I do still need to clean up the front part of the chassis, but the rear part, the whole power swing arm and all that stuff is 100% good to go. Throttle cables ran. I just got the brakes bled. We ran a new longer brake line to a left-handed master cylinder, so it took a little bit to get that to bleed, but I think it's good to go now. And I think we can actually start riding this thing, so we're gonna go on a little test drive and see how this thing does. But came out pretty good. If anything, I might need to put a cover on this. There's some small stuff I still want to fix up, but throttle is buttery smooth. It needs some grips, probably some different handlebars. Yeah, let's go rip this thing. I need to get Brandon over here and see what he thinks about it.